bevo.com.
When you left the BBC, a lot of people went out in the street and sort of, marched in support of you. And I think, in actual fact, it was Herb Schlosser, former CEO and president of NBC in the US, said, "I saw on the internet BBC employees marching in support of a CEO. This is the first in the history of the Western world." So a lot of CEOs will probably be thinking, if I left an organisation, would people go out on the streets and march in support of me? And I probably think a few of them will be thinking, well, only if it was a sort of nice dry heat at 27 degrees. But people followed you out into the street in January of 2004. So how were you able to create such willing followers? I know you write about it in your book, but in a nutshell, how were you able to do that?
Well, first of all, if people are going to walk out, there's no way better to do it at a television station because it gets on the news. Yeah. And, some people came out at what happened is some people came out at Television Centre. That got on the news, and then all over the country they came out. I always loved the local radio station in Shrewsbury. Everybody walked out, and they carried on broadcasting from the street, and all those sort of things happened. Why? Because we'd spent 4 years telling them that we valued what they did. By and large, people want to be valued, and we had. When I arrived at the BBC, it was a pretty unhappy place. They didn't like my predecessor. And they blamed him for everything, often nothing to do with him at all, but he got the blame for everything that was wrong, but they didn't like him. I have taken the view over many years that the job of the CEO is to spend a lot of time communicating with the people who work there. So I spend a lot of time on the road, I spend a lot of time talking to people. We use all sorts of tricks to communicate, but we also opened it up for them. My belief was people will always perform better if they work in an environment where they're valued rather than in an environment where they're afraid. So how do you create that? Well, you've got to give them, therefore, the ability to get on with things. And that means sometimes they'll make mistakes. That's part of life. But if everything is going to be checked and double checked and everything's got to go through this hierarchical structure, you don't get anything done. So my view has always been free people up, let them enjoy themselves, have a good time, let them think that you value them, because then they'll accept the tough times. Then they'll accept when you say, look, this is very tough and we're going to have to get rid of people, and this is what's going to happen. They'll live with all that. But they've got to believe you. They've got to believe you.
You're the epitome of an inspirational leader. So do you think that all organisations need an inspirational leader at the top, or do you think they can get away with having one that's sort of a very business process, logical, accountant style person at the top of their company?
I think if you could infuse the people who work for you and they make them feel valued, it's an enormous asset in making organisations work. However, if you've got entirely the wrong strategy, it makes no difference at all because you're buggered anyway. So you've got to have a strategy, but then you've got to sell it, and then you've got to get people on side for it. And all the work you do with your staff is about making sure they give you the benefit of the doubt. He's all right, so I don't think, he's all right. I don't like that idea, but he's all right, so we'll follow. That's what you're looking for.
You've been able to always hire the best people around you, to come and work for you, even in relatively low budget environments. What advice would you give to, hiring managers that are trying to hire the best talent in the marketplace today, but with relatively low budgets because of the economy?
Well, it depends what you talk about grade A talent. There's different sorts of talent. There's the on-screen talent who have to be dealt with in a different way. On-screen talent are artists, and they always profess not that money doesn't matter, but I don't believe it. But what they see the money as is a means of value. People. It is remarkable how many people you can get on side just by saying, "Thank you, that was a good job, well done." Like that film, that was a good piece. Or sending him a note. I think the other thing is, it's interesting, isn't it, in your life you discover things. I discovered when I first had kids that these were the best days of your life. That having I've always believed that there are days of your life. Yeah. And one of those days is the day your kids are born, or however many kids you got. Yeah. So one way of getting people, I mean, one of the things we did when I was running London Weekend is we just sent everybody who had a baby a bunch of flowers on behalf of the company. Just said thank you. And every Christmas we held an enormous kids' Christmas party. And it cost us about 50 grand. And everybody said, oh, you know, waste of money. You say, it's nothing. It's nothing compared to the goodwill it buys you. Because what you're saying to the, not only to the people who work for you, but their spouses, their children, because we used to have grandchildren coming along and the rest of it, is thanks. Thanks.
Bevo.com